Somewhere in China right now, a man with zero flight training, zero pilot's license, and 0 hours in a cockpit is sitting inside a two-seat aircraft. There's no joystick, no throttle, no steering wheel in the sky. He taps a location on a touchscreen, the way you'd order a coffee, and the aircraft lifts off the ground and flies him there, on its own. That's not a movie. That's not a concept render from a tech conference. That happened. And here's the part that should really stop you. That's not even the strangest thing that happened this year. At almost the same moment, in a testing facility outside Shanghai, a team of engineers stood in front of Guinness World Records officials and watched a number appear on a screen that made grown automotive executives go quiet. A single production car, a single gallon of fuel, 106 miles. Not a prototype, not a lab simulation running under perfect conditions. A verified, adjudicated, stamped world record, set on public roads, in a car a regular family could actually walk into a dealership and buy. 2 stories, one in the sky, one on the ground. And both of them are telling you the exact same thing. The biggest transportation shift since the invention of the automobile is not coming in some distant future. It is already here. It is already certified. And most people have absolutely no idea it's happening. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the next 10 years of getting from point A to point B are going to look nothing like the last 50. We're counting down 8 flying vehicles that are real, tested, and already reshaping what personal travel means. And then we're going to talk about that engine, because once you understand the number behind it, you will never look at a gas station the same way again. If breakdowns like this are your thing, hit subscribe before we start. Every single subscriber genuinely moves the needle on whether this channel keeps growing. Alright, let's get into it. Number 8. The XPeng AeroHT land aircraft carrier. Let's open with something that sounds made up until you actually watch the footage. A Chinese company called XPeng AeroHT, the same people building electric cars, looked at the flying car problem and asked a completely different question than everyone else in the industry. Most companies trying to build a flying car end up building a machine that's mediocre at both jobs. It drives like an aircraft trying to be a car, and it flies like a car trying to be an aircraft. XPeng threw that idea out entirely. Instead, they built 2 machines that are exceptional at one job each and taught them to work as a team. The first half is a 6-wheeled electric ground vehicle, rugged, spacious, styled like something out of a science fiction film. Nothing about it screams aircraft. It looks like a support truck, but folded into the cargo bay in the back, tucked away out of sight, is a fully electric 2-seat aircraft. Here's how it plays out in practice. You drive the 6-wheeled carrier out to open land, a field, a private stretch of road, anywhere with clearance. You press a single button. The aircraft rolls out from the back, unfolds its own rotors and frame automatically, and within a few minutes, you're airborne. What makes this genuinely smart engineering, not just a flashy demo, is the shared technology underneath. Both machines run on the same core electric motor and battery architecture already being mass-produced for ordinary EVs. That shared manufacturing base is exactly what keeps production costs from spiraling, and cost is the single biggest wall standing between flying vehicles and ordinary people. A rich hobbyist can afford almost anything. XPeng is building towards something else. A machine a serious consumer could eventually justify owning. Picture it. A Saturday morning drive to an open field, 1 button press, and a personal aircraft lifting off the back of your truck. That's not a weekend road trip anymore. That's something the word road trip doesn't even have a name for yet. And there's a bigger pattern hiding inside this design choice that's worth pausing on. For decades, the entire flying car industry chased one dream: a single vehicle that seamlessly does both jobs. That dream has produced a graveyard of underwhelming prototypes, vehicles that need a runway to take off, vehicles too heavy to drive comfortably, vehicles too fragile to survive a pothole. XPeng's answer was almost stubbornly practical. Stop trying to make one perfect machine and instead build two good machines that hand off to each other at exactly the right moment. It's the same logic behind a shipping container moving from truck to train to cargo ship without anyone ever repacking the freight inside it. Nobody built one vehicle that drives and sails and flies. They built specialized machines and standardized the handoff between them. That's essentially what's happening here, just with a human being as the cargo. And if that idea unsettles you a little, wait until you meet the next one, because this one removes something you'd think was non-negotiable. The pilot. Number 7. The EHang EH216-S. Ping separated the car from the aircraft. EHang went further and separated the pilot from the aircraft entirely. The EHang EH216-S is a fully autonomous passenger drone. You climb inside, you sit down, you select your destination on a touchscreen, and the aircraft flies itself there. There is no stick, no wheel, no pedals, no manual override sitting in front of you begging to be used. Just a seat, a screen, and open sky. Here's the detail that makes this historic rather than just impressive. In October 2023, China's aviation regulator granted this aircraft an official type certificate, the single highest level of aviation safety approval that exists. That's not a marketing badge. That means government inspectors tore the design apart piece by piece, tested it under adverse conditions, and formally declared it safe to carry real human passengers. That made the EH216-S the first fully autonomous passenger-carrying aircraft in history to receive that level of government certification anywhere on Earth. Not a prototype floating around a trade show, a certified aircraft, cleared to fly people, sitting in an official registry. Under the hood, or rather, above the cabin, it uses 8 folding arms carrying 16 independent rotors, seats 2 passengers, and stays connected to a ground control center for the entire flight. Human operators on the ground are watching and can step in if something goes wrong. But in the overwhelming majority of flights, the AI runs the entire operation, takeoff, cruise, landing, without a single human touching a control. Think about how strange that is for a second. We trust elevators to move us vertically through buildings without a human operator, and nobody blinks anymore. We trust subway systems in cities like Copenhagen and Vancouver to run entire lines with no driver on board. The EH216-S is asking for that same leap of trust, except the direction of travel is straight up into open sky instead of along a fixed rail or a shaft. That's a much bigger ask psychologically, even if the underlying safety case is arguably stronger, given how thoroughly the aircraft has been tested and certified. Now, if the idea of sitting in a pilotless aircraft makes your stomach drop a little, good, because the next machine on this list takes personal flight in the exact opposite direction. Less computer, more raw, unfiltered human control. Number 6. The gravity industries. Jet suit, forget, sitting comfortably while software handles everything. This next one is about strapping 5 jet engines directly to your body and flying like you walked straight out of a comic book. British inventor Richard Browning built the gravity industries jet suit around a deceptively simple layout. 2 jet engines mounted on each arm and 1 more on the back. Together, they generate over 1,000 horsepower, more raw power than most sports cars produce, output entirely by a machine worn like a jacket. There's no joystick here either, but for a completely different reason. Direction comes from your body. Lean forward, you move forward. Shift your weight left, you bank left. It is intensely physical, genuinely dangerous if you're careless, and it takes real dedicated training before anyone lets you near open sky in one. Top speed sits around 53 miles per hour, with a ceiling of nearly 12,000 feet. And here's the honest limitation: those engines are thirsty. You're looking at roughly 10 minutes of flight time per fuel load. That's not a lot, but it's already enough for militaries and rescue organizations around the world to start testing real-world applications. Imagine a paramedic soaring over a gridlocked highway crash, reaching a patient in 90 seconds instead of 20 minutes. Every single minute logged in that suit generates data most people never think about. Data on how a human body actually interacts with personal jet propulsion in real time. That data is what eventually produces safer, longer-lasting, more practical versions of this same idea. Think of it like the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. 12 seconds in the air, 12 seconds that rewrote everything that came after them. Speaking of rewriting everything, the next entry on this list is already being called the Tesla moment for personal aviation, and the comparison actually holds up. Number 5. The Jetson One. If the jet suit is built for adrenaline chasers willing to train for months, the Jetson One is built for basically everyone else. This single-seat electric flying vehicle weighs just 190 pounds, lighter than most motorcycles sitting in driveways right now. It runs on 8 electric motors, tops out around 63 miles per hour, and in a lot of jurisdictions, you don't even need a pilot's license to fly one. The real breakthrough isn't the hardware, it's the onboard flight computer. It handles every bit of the complex stabilization automatically, in the background, without you thinking about it. Let go of the controls mid-flight and the aircraft simply hovers in place, patiently waiting for your next move. It's less like flying a machine and more like the machine babysitting you while you figure it out. The company's stated goal is almost disarmingly simple: make personal flight feel as natural as driving a car in a parking lot. Early owners describe the experience as one of the most exciting moments of their lives. And the price, while still far from cheap today, is trending downward as production scales. This is the classic early adopter product. Expensive novelty first, daily tool for millions second. We've watched this exact pattern play out with electric cars, with smartphones, with personal computers. The Jetson One sits right at that early adopter inflection point today. Give it 5 years, and don't be surprised if it looks completely different on the market, cheaper, more common, and a lot less weird thing your neighbor bought. And while the Jetson One is changing how individual people think about flight, the next machine on this list changed what an entire industry believed was even physically possible for electric aviation. Number 4. The AutoFlight Prosperity. Time to scale up. From personal flyers to something built to actually replace commercial short-haul travel. The AutoFlight Prosperity is a large electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft designed to carry multiple passengers between cities or across metro regions. And it recently set a genuine world record, the longest flight ever completed by an electric aircraft in its class, covering 155 miles on a single charge. Let that sit for a second. 155 miles, fully electric, no fuel burned at any point in the flight. Roughly the distance from Washington, D.C. to New York City, covered entirely on stored battery power. For a passenger, the experience is designed to feel like booking an air taxi. You reserve a seat, you climb in, the aircraft flies you to your destination on its own, start to finish, with AI managing the entire flight. What actually separates the Prosperity from a flashy prototype, though, is its layered safety architecture. Engineers built in multiple independent protection systems that don't rely on each other to function. If a critical component fails mid-flight, the onboard AI can deploy a ballistic parachute for the entire aircraft in a fraction of a second, floating the whole vehicle, passengers included, safely to the ground. If a parachute isn't necessary but something still goes wrong, the system is capable of executing a complete emergency landing with zero human input required. That kind of redundancy is precisely the thing that will eventually convince an ordinary commuter to trust an autonomous air taxi more than they trust the highway they drive every day. And statistically, that trust may not even be misplaced. Now, if that range record impressed you, the next entry takes performance somewhere completely different. Try 186 miles per hour in three-dimensional open airspace with the pilot nowhere near the vehicle. Number 3. The Airspeeder Mk3. Let's talk about racing, because this is where flying vehicles get genuinely wild. The Airspeeder Mk3 was purpose-built for the world's first flying car racing series. Pilots sit in remote control stations wearing full VR headsets and race these aircraft through three-dimensional aerial race courses at speeds up to 186 miles per hour. Sit with that comparison for a second. Formula One cars hit similar speeds on flat tracks, bounded by walls, barriers, and a fixed racing line. These aircraft race through open sky in 3 complete dimensions, guided entirely by pilots who see the world only through a VR feed. It looks reckless because, frankly, it is a little reckless. But underneath the spectacle is something that matters far more than the highlight reel. Every major racing series in history has doubled as an engineering laboratory. NASCAR pushed forward tire compounds and engine durability under extreme stress. Formula One gave the world carbon fiber construction and advanced aerodynamics, technology that eventually trickled down into the ordinary cars people drive to work every day. The Airspeeder series is running that exact same playbook for flying vehicles. Collision avoidance software, sensor fusion, lightweight composite materials, and battery management systems are all being pushed to their absolute breaking point in live competition. Every near miss, every record lap, every mechanical failure generates hard engineering data that feeds directly into the next generation of safer, smarter civilian aircraft. And that same obsession, squeezing more performance out of every single component, more range, more efficiency, more reliability, is the exact mindset behind a breakthrough happening down on the ground that we're building toward later in this video. Because as remarkable as these flying machines are, there's a parallel story unfolding on the highway that connects directly to this same relentless pursuit of doing more with less. Number 2 is where that thread really starts pulling tight. Number 2, the Pivotal Helix. The Pivotal Helix is an American-made ultralight flying vehicle with a fixed-wing design and 8 tilting rotors. It weighs just 254 pounds, and under U.S. federal ultralight aircraft regulations, you don't need a pilot's license to fly it at all. The company's own claim is that you can learn to operate it safely in under an hour, and that's not marketing exaggeration. The flight control software handles takeoff, landing, and stabilization automatically. Your only job is choosing direction. The computer handles literally everything else. Here's what actually makes the Helix worth discussing at a bigger level than just its spec sheet. It represents 2 fundamentally different national philosophies converging on the same destination. In the United States, personal aviation has always been shaped around individual freedom. Regulations built specifically to let ordinary people fly lightweight aircraft without mountains of red tape standing in their way. The Helix fits that philosophy perfectly. Across the Pacific, a completely different but equally powerful strategy is unfolding. In multiple Chinese cities, fleets of fully autonomous delivery drones are already dropping off hot food, medicine, and packages at automated neighborhood pickup points at genuinely massive scale. Customers walk over, grab their order, and never interact with a single human driver in the entire process. That delivery network isn't just a neat convenience, it's a training ground. Coordinating thousands of small drones through crowded city airspace every single day builds the exact traffic management systems, coordination software, and real-world flight data needed to eventually guide hundreds of personal aircraft through those same skies safely. The Helix and those delivery drone fleets are two completely different roads arriving at the exact same destination, a world where the sky is used as routinely as the highway underneath it. It's a genuinely interesting split to watch play out. One country building its future around individual ownership and personal freedom in the sky. Another building its future around shared, automated networks, moving goods and eventually people at massive scale. Neither approach is obviously correct. They're just two different bets on how humans will actually want to use low-altitude airspace once it becomes routine. And realistically, the winning version of the next decade probably borrows from both. Number one is the machine that makes that destination feel genuinely close. But right after it, we're heading down to the ground for a story just as extraordinary as anything on this list. An engine that connects this same more with less obsession into a single number that stopped the entire automotive industry in its tracks. Number one, the XTI TriFan 600. The XTI TriFan 600 isn't a weekend toy or a short commuter hop. It's a full-size hybrid aircraft designed to replace short and medium-distance regional travel entirely. And its design is unlike anything that came before it. It uses three large ducted fans, big enclosed propellers. Two sit inside the wings and can physically rotate 90 degrees. At takeoff, they point straight upward, lifting the aircraft vertically off the ground, just like a helicopter. Once airborne, they rotate forward and the aircraft smoothly transitions into high-speed horizontal flight, just like a conventional airplane. A third fan mounted in the tail handles directional control through the entire process. That design means the TriFan 600 can take off from a rooftop helipad, a corporate parking lot, or a stretch of private property. No airport, no runway, no terminal lines, no baggage carousel, none of it. Once in the air, it carries 6 passengers at a cruising speed of 380 miles per hour, climbs to 30,000 feet, and covers a range of nearly 1,500 miles. Put that in real terms. A road trip that normally eats 5 or 6 hours of your life stuck in traffic becomes a 90-minute, door-to-door flight. That's not just a faster way to travel. That's the kind of shift that changes where people choose to live, where businesses choose to set up, and how entire regional economies connect to each other. Towns that were once too far from a major airport to attract serious investment suddenly become genuinely accessible. Families that used to spend holidays fighting highway congestion start measuring distance in flight minutes instead of driving hours. The TriFan 600 is the long-game vision for where personal aviation is actually heading. Not a gimmick for beating rush hour across town, but a genuine replacement for flying across entire regions, on your own schedule, with no airline involved at any point. And here's the thing. As extraordinary as every single one of these 8 machines is, there's a separate story unfolding down on the ground that's every bit as dramatic. Because while one group of engineers was busy figuring out how to make the sky accessible, an entirely different group was quietly solving a problem that touches literally every person who has ever pulled into a gas station. And the number they landed on is so far beyond what anyone expected that it made an entire industry stop and stare. Now step back and look at everything we just covered as one single picture. 8 flying vehicles, all real, all tested, all either certified or already in active production. Some remove the need for a pilot entirely. Some take off from a parking lot and land in another city 90 minutes later. Some literally fold out of the back of a truck. The sky is becoming genuinely accessible to ordinary people in a way that simply didn't exist a decade ago. At the exact same time, The engine powering ground travel just hit a level of efficiency that used to be locked behind multi-million-dollar racing budgets, packed into a vehicle that costs less than a decent used car. These aren't two separate stories. They're the same shift, told from two different angles. The wall between cutting-edge technology and something regular people can actually afford and use every day is coming down fast on both fronts at once. Think about what happened with smartphones. In 2000, a mobile phone made phone calls. By 2007, it had absorbed your camera, your map, your music player, and your internet browser into one device. By 2012, it had replaced your wallet and your boarding pass too. Entire industries that had existed comfortably for decades simply could not keep up with how fast the ground shifted underneath them. Transportation is going through that exact same compression right now. Electric propulsion, AI flight systems, ultra-efficient hybrid engines, and rapidly falling production costs are all converging into something that's about to do to cars and planes what the smartphone did to cameras and paper maps. Whatever transportation looks like in 10 years, it will not resemble what most of us drive and fly today, and the companies leading that shift are not always the household names you grew up trusting. And it's worth noticing something else about all 9 of these breakthroughs: the 8 aircraft and the engine. Almost none of them came out of the places most people would have guessed a decade ago. A handful of these companies didn't even exist 20 years ago. The center of gravity for transportation innovation is visibly shifting in real time, and whether that makes you excited or uneasy probably says a lot about where you're watching this video from. Either way, ignoring it isn't really an option anymore. Not when the products are already certified, already on public roads, and already sitting in dealerships instead of concept galleries. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Between a flying vehicle that lifts off from your own driveway and an engine that carries you over 1,000 miles on a single tank, which one actually changes your day-to-day life more? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this gave you something new to think about, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown the moment it goes live.